immensely proud to receive the endorsement of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, their political arm. Supporting our troops and our veterans is certainly one of the highest obligations that I have as a congressman. I take that duty very seriously. And I'm really delighted that I've been endorsed by the VFW and their political arm, because they do so much to represent our fighting men and women, both those who are serving currently and those who have also who have served and are now veterans. So I'm really pleased to have that support. It means a great deal. My principal opponent in this election has not been very clear in his priorities. He's actually been distorting my record, and frankly, in many cases, just completely untruthful about my record, particularly as it relates to our armed services and our veterans. In fact, he really doesn't talk much about any of these issues, and that's I think really what is even more troubling. Whether it's on funding our troops in Afghanistan, and Buck can tell you more than anybody else how difficult it has been. But my opponent, as I said, has not been forthcoming on any of these major issues, except to send out attack pieces just to try to condemn me on obscure procedural votes from years ago, suggesting that somehow I've not been helpful to our veterans. In fact, I wanted to just point out too, he went so far as to have pictures of troops with blood coming down their face saying I've not been helpful. A fellow holding a prosthetic said we've not been helpful, and basically saying we're cutting their funds, which is nothing further from the truth. You know, actually, since I've been in Congress, funding for veterans' health has gone up by more than 64%, and I voted for every one of the Veterans Affairs and the Military Construction appropriations bills, the appropriations bills that fund our veterans, everyone. And you know, the funding levels have gone up substantially, actually, from about $29.5 billion for veterans' health to the current number of about $45 billion. I mean, that's how much it's gone up, but my opponent would have you believe we have actually cut that funding and taken away their TRICARE and taken away their benefits. It's simply outrageous, so outrageous so that I have a statement here from another colleague of ours, Sam Johnson, who was a 7-year prisoner of war in Vietnam, who should also know voted the same way I did on many of these same issues we just discussed. And he just offered this commentary, which will be released to all the press. I'm just going to quote him: "The baseless attacks against Congressman Dent are an outrage. As a 7-year prisoner of war in Vietnam, I find his opponent's attacks offensive and untrue. In fact, I voted the same way Congressman Dent did. The reality is a vote for Charlie Dent is a vote against Speaker Pelosi and the out-of-touch, off-course White House. This administration wanted wounded warriors to pay for their own care. Charlie Dent knows better than that and stood up against the president's absurd idea." So Sam Johnson, you know, is firmly on our side, and proud to have his strong endorsement and support.
It's a real honor and a privilege for me to be able to be here to tell you just a little bit about your Congressman, Charlie Dent. But first of all, I want to thank all of you who have worn the uniform of this great nation, who have fought for our freedoms. I'm humbled to be in your presence. Thank you for your service. I'm, as he said, the ranking member on armed services, but he has been to Iraq and Afghanistan more than I have. And as he said, you know, we're in kind of the silly season now. People say a lot of things, and it's unfortunate. There's enough things, I'm sure, that Charlie disagrees with his opponent on, that you can have good, solid, honest debate and cover. But to have to pick something like that he doesn't support veterans when it's obvious, all of you being his friends and supporters, it's obvious that he does. Both those currently serving and those who have served. And by the endorsements he's received, that's obvious. So it happens all across the country, and when people get behind, they do this sort of thing. And the problem is, as Charlie said, if you don't rebut them, they are accepted as true, and negative ads do work. So it's like I said, it's unfortunate, but it's not new. People said bad things about George Washington, said bad things about Abraham Lincoln, so you find yourself in good company. I know that Charlie's working hard to ensure that the men and women returning from Iraq and Afghanistan get the care that they need. Charlie's been working with the Veterans Addiction Treatment Program run by the Treatment Trends in Allentown. Post-traumatic stress syndrome, which is a big problem, one of the many challenges facing today's vets. And this program will enable the implementation of a community-based drug and alcohol addiction and PTSD treatment center dedicated to serving veterans and their families. He voted for and is a strong proponent of the new GI Bill. This gives veterans that have served since 9/11 full 4-year education. He voted for that, he's a strong supporter of that. Charlie's a strong voice on common sense national security priorities. He's opposed bringing terrorist detainees into this country for trial. That's one of the victories that we had, even though we're in the minority.
I did want to say, when my opponent sent out this mail piece, and he shows an individual, gentleman holding a prosthetic, I should let you know that my opponent supported the healthcare law. And that healthcare law will raise taxes on that prosthetic. It's a class 1 device. Taxed at 2.3%. He's going to raise the taxes on that wounded warrior's prosthesis. He's going to raise it on his wheelchair, make it very difficult for him to get that wheelchair. He's going to tax they're taxing wheelchairs, prosthetics, they're taxing bandages and tongue depressors, they're taxing bedpans. But most of all, my opponent John Callahan is taxing our patients. And I think we've had enough. And the point is, we're looking forward to him making statements on any number of these issues, not the least of which is Guantanamo. When he was asked about Guantanamo, you know what his answer was? I don't have a position, I'll have to think about it. That was around Christmas time. He did send out a statement saying he did talk to some retired military about it, but still hasn't yet figured out his position. You know, here we are, it's October the 2nd, the election's coming up, and we're waiting to hear his position, just like on health care, where he said he couldn't take a position on that until the day after the vote. You know, the battle had been fought, and he showed up after the major battle was over. I mean, that's what we're dealing with in this election. And you won't hear from him on any of these issues. So that said, I want to thank you all for coming out.